Welcome back to Keys and Gears. I'm here with Bess Dickson, local real estate professional in Dallas, Texas. Mark Liesner, your lending professional here in Dallas, Texas. So today we're going to talk about part number 6 of our ongoing series on home purchase process. What's step 6, Bess? It's the closing week. Yay, we made it to the end. Oh my God, we've gone through this whole process.
Get so excited for
You've
my
guided
people.
them. You've guided them all the way to closing. I've done my part guiding them on the finance side. So what's next? So here we are. We have clear to close from the lender. The lender now switches the gears to producing documents. And there's a good stack of documents, Bess, right? It's depending on the lender. Some are more and some are less,
Yes.
right? And so these documents are legal documents that you're going to end up signing. So, if you're trying to commit fraud, this is your your last chance not to, okay? And I've had this at closing tables where people were committing fraud and it got dicey, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so what is the closing process on the lender side? So now the lender's attorneys draw up the documents that are going to be signed at the closing table with Bess, and hopefully I can make the closing table too and help you if you have any questions during that process of actually signing the documents. So those documents then get transferred to the title company, but that's the easy part. The more difficult part is the lender also has to do a closing disclosure, and the closing disclosure is very complicated. It has a lot of numbers on it, has a lot of different information on it, and it gets confusing.
Is that the document that sometimes people refer to as a CD?
A CD, closing disclosure short, is CD. And you're working towards getting a final closing disclosure, and that's really the one that you have to pay attention to, because that's the one you sign at closing. That's the one that is actually set in stone. And what it is debits and credits. So it's what money are you putting in, what money is coming from the seller, and the title company and the lender have to put together their numbers in terms of debits and credits. That means amendments from the contract where the seller may be paying for something or whatever it is, that gets put onto the closing disclosure. Any title company charges get finalized and put onto that disclosure. Any lender charges, any monies that you already paid, for example, for credit report or for survey or for appraisal, they show up on that document. So it's important that we walk through that document, that I can explain it to you if you have any questions. Now, most of the numbers are pretty straightforward, but there's questions every once in a while about specific things on that closing disclosure. So
Most often one I think is where there's been miscommunication along the way with negotiated credits.
Correct.
That were negotiated after contract.
Correct.
During
the inspection or after inspection,
right.
between contract
During
and close.
the option period, generally.
Sometimes there's things, things slip through the cracks. So as a buyer, make sure that all the debits and credits are on there, that you're due. And Bess will do that too. She'll double check that too, and so will I. And so that's one part of the process of getting ready for closing. The week of closing, you work your way up to that final disclosure, and it goes back and forth several times until it's finalized. The other thing is you need to get ready to wire the money, okay? Your down payment, your closing cost. Now, first of all...
One wire for both? Down payment, closing
yes,
cost?
Yes, one wire, preferably one wire, keeps it clean. Please call the title company, call them, and get the wiring instructions emailed to you. So you should have already gotten communication from the title company with phone numbers on it, and call them. Why do I say that? There's a lot of wire fraud that goes on. So a lot of companies, a lot of criminals that will try to intervene in this process and get you to send them the money instead of the title company. So be sure that you have the correct wiring instructions. I can't say that enough. It actually says at the bottom of my email signature, do not wire money unless you verbally verified that is correct. So have the wire sent to the title company. You can send more money than what's required for closing. The title company will write a check back to you. That's what I recommend you do. So if
a paper check.
If the closing disclosure, if you've run out of time and the final disclosure, for example, isn't done until the day of closing, and you want to wire the money before that day, then wire a little bit extra. If it's $55,000, wire $57,000. Okay, to be safe. You can also write a personal check up to $1,500. I don't recommend that these days because it's just a pain in the you know what. So wire the money to title company, have it verified that it's arrived, and beyond that, the real estate agent has things to do with you before we get to actually signing the document on the day. What does that look like, Bess?
On Keys Day.
On Keys Day.
Yes. Well, we are confirming utilities. The type that's provided, is it sewer? Is it septic? So city sewer, or if it's out in the country, is it septic? Electric. Texas is a free choice state,
Yep.
so you are not mandated to use a power source, a particular power company in the state, unless you are living in a co-op
Yes.
zone.
That's different.
Or the city of Garland.
Yeah, right.
Which is not a co-op. It's actually, the city of Garland actually owns its own power company.
There are cities like that. Yes.
Yes.
Small cities
just one
within,
that comes to mind, but
within
Dallas.
metroplexes, there are cities
Right.
like that.
But anyway, so all that's going to be sorted out. Your gas,
Right.
those sorts of things.
Right.
Security will be taken care of later. Speaking of security, however, that is where we have the conversation with the list agent to talk about smart homes and the clearing of all those smart home gadgets.
Devices and
Devices, all those things, rebooting, resetting, all of that is covered. Mail, is it a community mailbox? How will the mailbox key be conveyed?
Correct.
Is there a pool, a community pool? Well, how is the community pool key conveyed? I mean, there's all these little things that are cleaned up and clarified.
Lots of nuts and bolts.
During closing week.
A lot of different
Yes.
gears going on.
Yes.
But a big one is that you haven't mentioned that I am surprised how many agents do not do with their clients is a final
walkthrough.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. About 48 hours.
Why do you do that?
Before that? Well, because we just want to make sure that everything that we had agreed to, all the terms that were agreed to in the contract, that have been performed to. Because often part of that contract is little things like leaving the refrigerator in the kitchen. Because in the state of Texas, the washer and dryer and the refrigerator are looked at as personal property.
Yes.
So what does Bess mean by that? I mean that the state of Texas looks at a washer and dryer and a refrigerator as the same personal property level as the jeans that you and I are wearing right now.
Or in your closet, right?
That are in your closet.
Because essentially what they're saying is if it's movable without having to use any tools, it's personal property that can be removed or it remains. Depends
Unless
on what you
it's been
negotiate.
negotiated as part of the terms of purchase.
But to me, the bigger issue is, before you sign on the dotted line, you want to make sure the house is still standing. There's no additional damage done when they moved out.
Right.
I've seen it too many times. There's bushes that are missing all of a sudden.
I had one recently. They
Oh my
took
gosh.
the bush out.
How often does that
The bushes
happen?
were missing. And
I mean, I get frantic phone calls from people like frequently on what's missing in the house. And I'm like, well, did your agent not walk through the house with you?
Page one of
And
the
this
1
is
to 4
after
family
closing,
says
guys. This
bushes
is after
convey with the house.
This is after closing. They're calling me frantically.
No, too late.
And it's too late. You're
late.
done at that
Too
point.
late. I had someone recently where on our final walkthrough, the wall-mounted TV.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've got one of those wall-mounted TV that we had agreed to in the terms of purchase. Was the wrong TV.
Yeah, they had replaced
They had
it.
there was still a TV hanging,
but it
was the wrong one.
The wrong one. Yeah.
It was one that was like $100 special.
We've seen it all. I had a in my real estate as an agent. And a little sidebar here. I had a buyer. We did the final walkthrough. There was a whole tree missing, and came to find out the seller's child had died, and they had planted the tree when the child died, and they want to take the tree with them to the next
Totally
house.
respect that,
Which
but
is
you need to let everybody know.
It needed to be put in the contract, and that's where
Shame
the
on
listing
that
agent
listing
was
agent.
at fault. And we got a replacement tree. It was all taken care of. It was fine, but it's a very strange. The other one I want to caution you is a lot of times when you buy a house, you're blinded by the furnishings, and you don't realize what the house really looks like when the furnishings are gone, right? The house is, to prepare yourself, the house is going to look different. The walls are going to look different. The floor plan is going to look different. Just mentally prepare yourself that it's not going to look quite the same, and don't be disappointed by it. It's yours to make it yours. Make it yours, right?
Well, it's becoming a blank canvas for you to start building your memories.
That's beyond the final walkthrough. I'm just saying that it startles people sometimes when they walk in after closing and it looks a little different. All this that we
have shared with you, we still haven't actually made it to the table.
We're signing the documents. So now what? So we've done all that. Are we at the table yet?
So we're at the table. Okay. And so you've sent over your wire per Mark's instructions. Per my ask instructions, you've brought 2 forms of non-expired government ID.
Yes.
Now, we're sharing with you based on Texas.
Yes.
Okay, your state might be different, but if you're coming into Texas, you need to know these things. And you are bringing, if you have it, a personal checkbook for just in cases for small little things.
If you have it.
Because cash is not allowed is not recognized as a form of payment at the title company.
Yeah, correct.
And you are bringing your very strong fingers because you're going to be signing anywhere.
And you sign your name as it states on the closing documents, exactly as it states, the same way. You can't bring a stamp. Don't bring a pen. Just take the pen from the title company, use it, and you're going to be signing your name a lot. And if you would like to read the closing package before closing, reach out to me. I'll be happy to send it to you.
Yep.
So you can read it before we get there.
Then we can just sign.
But it's all legalese, boilerplate information. There's really not anything unusual.
Average signing time is about 45 minutes 45 minutes. Just because of the process. Number one question Mark and I get, as soon as I sign the documents, I own the house. No. As soon as all parties have signed, as soon as the lender that is actually writing the check has gone through every single paper and every single signature and checked every T and dotted every I is correct, it has given the title company magic number, a GC number, and we're funded, i.e. the money has left the lender and is in the seller's preferred bank account, pocket, now you are a homeowner.
Right. The money has to change hands.
4 hours or so after
and can I have the keys before? No,
because that would be called trespassing.
Correct.
That is
you don't
called
own the property until the money has changed hands. At that point, Bess can give you the keys.
That is correct.
And the garage door opener. And no, you can't move things in before closing.
No.
No.
No. Again, it's called trespassing.
No.
Trespassing.
And if you're a seller, do not agree to that, please. There's too many liabilities with that. Please don't let people move things in.
Speaking of trespassing, another way to avoid trespassing besides having professionals have your back, whether you're buying or selling, you probably also want to have a good, strong fence. And here is...
Oh, my. This is our segment of what crazy things we see in real estate.
What crazy things we've seen. Our surprisingly, we still haven't come up with a title
okay,
for that. We really should do that.
You know, this fence, I've seen this before, and it's like,
It's a tired fence. We can see it's all rotten on the bottom.
Yeah, I've seen this movie before. The kicker in this, for me, was, the price point. But you'll get to that. But before we get to the price point, what else can you tell us about the situation?
Well, so who is responsible, right? Who is responsible for putting up a fence? Well, that's why we talked about before the survey. That's where the survey is important because the survey tells you literally down to the infinitesimal point what you own. So where your ownership ends and where your neighbors begins.
Right.
And ideally, the fence is directly on that line, so that both of you have equal responsibility.
Ownership of it, basically.
Ownership of the fence. Gentlemen's rules generally is whoever pays slightly more gets to pick which side of the fence faces them. Because some people call the good side the ladder side. This is the ladder side, i.e. If someone wanted to climb up and hop the fence as if it were a ladder, they would use this side. Some people want this side facing them because of safety concerns. Other people want the pretty side.
Yeah, I want the pretty side.
The pretty side, right? Yeah. Anyway, so there you go.
So it's somewhat negotiable between neighbors who pays for the fence.
Correct.
Do I hear that correctly?
Correct. And here's a strange thing with fences. Everybody wants a good fence.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pay for one.
Right.
I will say if you go ahead and spend a little bit more money and get a nice fence like the neighbors across the back of the way, that actually adds value to your house. People are like, a fence.
Correct.
And online, they'll tell you fences don't add value to your house. I say the right fence adds value to your house.
And not just to your house, but good fences make good neighbors.
Yes.
So it adds to your enjoyment of your own home.
Yes.
Having a good fence.
Which apparently is a Texas thing. I am guiding a family that just moved down here from Chicago, and her number one comment is, geez, all these houses have giant fences all around them. And they said where they lived in Chicago, there were no fences anywhere. Everybody just went from yard to yard.
As a European, I agree with that. Most people don't have fences.
So I guess it's a Texas thing.
Yeah, but I think it adds a lot to a property. Now, the price point on this was blowing my mind.
Ready for this? Okay. Talking about know your neighbor. There's a good safety tip on how to have a great neighborhood and how to add value to your house, and that is to promote a good neighborhood. This yard that I'm standing in, the home has a value of about $1.5 million. The house on the other side of that fence just sold, and it sold for about $2.7 million. And they are fighting over the fence because neither one of them wants to take the expense of putting in the fence.
So it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're in. This is an issue, right?
Right. And while I was standing here with the crew on this side of the fence, the guy on the other side backed out of the driveway in a yellow Ferrari. I just thought that was just
yellow
the
Ferrari,
thing.
But doesn't put up a new fence.
Well, there
Craziness.
You go. It's all about priorities.
Craziness. So and just as a quick wrap up in terms of cost, are we still looking at $250 a linear foot for a decent fence, for a nice fence? Or what are we spending these days for
about right.
For a fence?
That's about right. So some people will say like $45 a foot, $250 a linear foot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So
it
there's all different
adds
varieties.
up. It adds up quick.
It adds up. Real quick in closing.
Yeah.
You do want to go ahead and splash out for metal posts, because if you were in North Texas, our clay soil eats wood fence posts alive.
Yeah. Yep.
Eats them alive. And so your $8,000 fence is going to be rocking and rolling like a snake in the dirt.
Needs to be concrete.
Got to use the metal posts because they're dug and they're planted in about 2 feet. So what you see here, there's 2 feet underneath down below. And that is what keeps the fence rock steady as best it can in our crazy clay soil.
And there you have it.
There you have it. There's
another episode.
More gears behind those keys for you, baby.
Another episode of Keys and Gears. Subscribe and like below. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.